Welcome back to the Work-Inspired Podcast. It's Tzvi Broker with Rav Gerzi, and it is great to be back after a vacation. Now, hopefully you guys have enjoyed your time off, and in the lapse of this podcast have had the opportunity to really understand the sugya of vacation through our vacation series and rejuvenation. Right. Our vacation or rejuvenation series, which if you haven't had the chance yet, make sure to check it out. Thanks to one of our sponsors, we have the opportunity to share this Torah, which is for sure relevant. Even as we go back to regular life, we still need to learn how to be able to have leisure, how to be able to rejuvenate. So make sure to check it out. But we're talking about today is a very, very exciting and important topic. Before we jump in, just to thank our sponsorship, we really have appreciation to our sponsors for today's episode, which is being shared 𝗬𝗓𝗓 Avram ben Salcha, Abraham ben Latifa, and 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗘𝗧 bas Eileen, that all of the inspiration and the transformation that will come out from this podcast should be a 𝗬𝗓𝗓 for them. And thank you very much to our sponsors for enabling us to be able to share these conversations to a wider audience. Okay, so where are we up to, Rav Gerzi? It's really a continuation of our last podcast where we opened up a painful topic. Which is the reality of an educational system, which we know education, we would like to assume education is there to prepare us for our next stage. And we spoke in our last podcast about a reality where an educational system is not meeting the needs of everyone. And as we pointed out, it's not just some few individuals that are not being prepared for the professional world, for the workplace, for their jobs through an educational system. But really, if we look at a full picture and the gamut of the different types of people, right? In many cases, the educational system is not meeting the needs of a lot of people. And we were discussing how, from the Torah perspective, the Torah is in favor of more of a people-focused educational model in which we understand, right, people, we understand the chinuch needs to be designed, right, for the individual. And some of the feedback we got back was, this is such an important topic, right? It's something which we all know from either our own experiences at work or from dealing with our children as they go through their own educational experiences, is something which we face. But let's talk about some solutions. What can we do? Right? Not just individuals, but as a community. We know that among our viewership, we have Rabbanim and educators, right, and Askanim, and we want to really open up this conversation and invite you to share with us how we can try, as we look forward to the upcoming year, to be able to improve this for all of us. So, Rav Gerzi, what do you have to say? I know that you always meet with so many people. Meet with from so many different backgrounds.
Because it's very important.
Of course, and you're such an address for lots of different situations that come up, and you always have great stories. Maybe just to reflect on how you're seeing this show up in different people's lives.
I want to tell you, I was very happy this morning. Somebody's been trying to get hold of me for a very, very long time. They know me very well. So they sent me, where's my phone? Oh, yeah, they're using my phone. They said, I know that you're very important. I said, I feel so good.
You had to go to that strategy.
So it's a very big, I believe deeply, it's a very, very big sugya, and it's not enough just to share it here. I do want to say, by the way, you mentioned people watching this. I have to give, people watch it for you. I think people watch it for you, and because the cameraman as well, sort of helping us, being Masada, but people get back to me. They really, I tell you, that we try very much to be of service. By Ropshit's Pilzno, by our community, we try very much to be of service. And it's beautiful when people give messages. They watched it. They saw it, like, you watched it? What are you watching it for? We watched it. It was big chizuk. So I'm very humbled. I'm very humbled. I mean, my mother and father watches it, and my other brother makes fun of it. So Baruch Hashem, it's like really special when people do actually send a comment. I'm really humbled. I believe it's important material, and I get emotional about it. It's like, wow, no, it was a good idea to do this. Kol hakavod. So, first of all, it's very easy to put down everything and anything. And this is something which I think is we have to be careful, we have to be cautious, because it's very easy to put down the yeshiva system and the education system, and it's very easy to put down the government, and everybody, we could put everyone down. I would like to start off just by sharing that we've been in exile for such a long time. We're all trying to figure it out. And on the whole, I think, Baruch Hashem, we're doing okay. Yeah, there's bumps along the roads. And, since the Second World War, we've been rebuilding ourselves. And I think, on the whole, Baruch Hashem, a lot of people are doing well. I've been, in the world of health. In the world of health, I've had several practices and martial arts studios and gyms and things like that. And I teach as well in several different yeshivas. I do a lot of stuff because I get bored very easily. My wife says I have ADHD. So I get bored easily. So I like to do lots of different things. And one thing I've noticed, definitely from an education perspective, when I started teaching many years ago, 20 odd years ago, and I was bringing these ideas, I was already very conscious of these ideas in regards, for example, to the body and how trauma works, and what trauma is, and the psychology of trauma and the experience of trauma. So, for example, I realized in physical therapy, I noticed more and more, if somebody had an intention while I was working with them, then funnily enough, more and more sessions created a reality where there was less and less trauma, and they were normalizing into living a good, healthy way of living. So there was a lot of very interesting observations, and I would bring that to school with me. I'd bring that to school when I would be teaching. I would share these ideas, and today it's an amazing thing, because whereas 20 odd years ago, people thought I was nuts. You do what in your class? You play, I don't know, Metallica to first parak of Mishnah Kedushin with the guy. Yeah. And they loved it, and they learned all of Mishnah. It's just, today, it's quite common. You go to yeshivas, and just from a mental health perspective, so many yeshivas have therapists, they have personal growth workshops, they're bringing in and collaborating with other
it's a progress. You're saying that there's progress being made.
Yes. There's a school in America now that contacted me, and it was an amazing 𝗟𝗓𝗦𝗬𝗓. There's a lot of stress of people, kids. I mean, I wonder if we would ever measure how stressful it is for a kid to get to school. I don't know what it's like with you and your family, but when I have to get my kids up to school, starts like 5:30, 6 o'clock. Get up, running around, trying to get them up, getting the baseball bats, bribery. Here, you want pancakes or you want the baseball? And just to get them in the car. You want to go to school in your pajamas, or do you want to? Let them start later. I mean, in my world, I'd start the younger kids. Let them start later. Let them start 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. So I wonder how traumatizing that is for them, getting the kids out to school. So I think, though, that, as I mentioned, this school in America, you know what they do before they daven? They do breathing. And they're doing a little bit of yoga.
Oh, wow.
Which is really powerful. And the kids start more grounded, more centered. It's really beautiful. It's like kol hakavod. They actually listened to what I had to suggest, and it's really helping. And there are shifts and changes being made. And it is gradual. It's organic. It's gradual. Whereas once upon a time something was weird and odd, today it's far more regulated and normalized. So I think that in regards to the education system, and the major issue, and I learned this from my grandfather, the major issue is that you can experience success. You can have success. And there's something called fulfilment. So my grandfather learned the hard way. He was brilliantly successful, but he came to realize he wasn't fulfilled. He was an artist, and he's a mathematician and a philosopher. It was correct. My grandfather was unbelievable mind, unbelievable heart, really, really loving, expansive human being, and he gave so generous. And he said to me, it wasn't always like that. In his 40s, he made a heck of a lot of money. He made so much money, and he was successful. He had a shop in Tel Aviv, and he was an architect, and he was doing amazing stuff. And he felt success. He experienced success. He had money like anything, but he wasn't fulfilled. And he came to realize success without fulfillment is failure. Success without fulfillment is failure. We want to be successful in life, but we want to feel fulfilled. And there's many areas in our education system that gears us up for success, but does not teach us how to be like a decent, healthy human being. Unless the Rebbe or the teacher really understands that segment of fulfillment, people don't speak about it.
Right. But I think, I definitely, what you just shared right now of this idea of even having on the radar, when talking about education, this whole topic of fulfillment and not being something which is focused on is for sure a component. And I think, as well, that when it comes to the curriculum, this is something that we mentioned last time as well, that often we can grow up in a certain system and just take certain things for granted, that's just the way things are, and perhaps that's always the way that things have been. When you take a look historically of the development of how our curriculum, what we're speaking right now here about secular curriculum when it comes to academics, when it comes to preparing ourselves for career, how that was created, right? It's fascinating to see, the philosophical underpinnings of what was going on, when a certain curriculum was set in an academics realm,
17th century,
and how that's played out, and that's kind of put a certain stamp on curriculum, which as a result, as within our own communities, right, when we're building a secular program, we're speaking about programs that are not just saying limudei kodesh. We want to give our kids an education. We want to be able to prepare them so they can have a parnasa. There's a certain set curriculum which we're working off of, which on some level we can say is not even within our control, because schools are functioning within states, within governments, within regulations. They have certain requirements that they need to fulfill in order to be able to have funding. There's already a system which is being set up, but within the system itself, and this is something which is becoming clearer and clearer today. We mentioned, I believe last time, Sir Ken Robinson was one of the forerunners in speaking about this, that the education system as we know it, and the subjects which are focused on, right, are only focused on a fraction of the human experience, a fraction of the jobs that are out there. And then we can have a situation, and I know these are conversations, that I've had, with people, where you meet with people that, have gone through the system, have been working, and then you open up a model for them, and they understand themselves, and they understand how that falls into the fulfillment, piece that you're mentioning. They have this moment of realizing, so what you're saying is really, I am intelligent? What you're saying is that really, I am very smart, and it's only because of a certain system that promoted certain subjects and certain stigmas of this is what's needed to create a success, this is what's considered to be intelligent, which is not actually accurate of what's really out there in the workplace that's created it. When I have those moments with people, it's painful, but it's also liberating. It's liberating for people. And
that's what the question is: what is our education system for? So first of all, the history, and again, it's not. I don't know if it takes a long time to really excavate this whole sugya. The education system as we have it today is pretty much from the Industrial Revolution. It hasn't changed. So, for example, I'll say something on what you said, if I may, in a moment. But l'mashal, everything that the workplace is transitioning into, we're not taught how to deal with that in our education system. So, for example, in the workplace, we're told to be self-sufficient. We're told to be creative. In a number of companies that I'm in touch with, they expect from the people who are working, the employees, to govern themselves to a certain degree. So they don't necessarily work from 9 to 5, but they work from project to project. So when we go to school, if you think about that, taking the initiative, if you think about self-management. None of that exists. We're micromanaged in school. We don't necessarily learn the soft skills that are needed in communication. I'll give you an example. A few weeks ago, there's somebody who left school when they were 16, and they did a couple of courses in coding, and they're doing coding. They went to a job interview in Tel Aviv, and there was a person sitting next to them who had a master's and a couple of years of experience, and a couple of other people who were going for the job as well. He's got 9 years of experience. They liked him. They gave him the job straight away. This is a $400,000 job. I think closer to $300,000 job. And he got it. Why? Because he had the experience. And as well, he knew to work with people.
Right.
That's why they liked his personality, and we don't learn that in school, and that's number one. And I think that it's catching up. The education system is catching up. As I said, we can definitely bash it on the head, but it is catching up. The education system, there's a transition that's trying to be made, and it's slow. It's not quick. It's slow. It's organic. There's a lot of paperwork. I would say as well, which I think is even more important, is that everybody has intelligence. Every single person has intelligence, and what I have found repeatedly is that when a person does not have intelligence, it hasn't been brought out of them.
For sure.
So I'll tell you a 𝗍𝗧. When I was younger, and I was, the dyslexia that's still connected to me at this point in time. I remember I went to the Rabbi and I said, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And he said to me, he told me a 𝗍𝗧 of Rabbi Moshe Feinstein. He said that there was once...
This is the Biala
Rebbe, the Biala Rebbe Shlita. So he said there was a Yid, or there was a businessman that knocked on someone's door and said to this farmer who's been living on this farmland for a long time. He turns to me and says, we believe you have oil under your farm. And the farmer goes, come on, oil, come on. Right, we've been here for generations. Don't you think we would have found oil if there was oil? And he says, the man in the suit, businessman, says, you'll take 80% and we'll take the rest. You'll take 80% if we find oil, sign. And what we'll do, we'll dig up, anything we dig up, we'll fix it up better than it was before. The guy wasn't doing so well, so he thinks to himself, okay, let's try. So they come in with all the big machinery, they start to dig up, and guess what? They found oil. The farmer gets 80% of everything that they found, and this company gets the rest. And what the Rebbe said is that every single person has their specific genius. It's not always noticeable though. And it takes time. He says, my job as your Rebbe is to bring that genius out of you. Your parents, it's to bring that genius out of you. And that's what he said to me. And by this time already, because we received 𝗟𝗧 from the Rebbe for already many years, I was playing music and I was doing martial arts, and he pushed me to do physical therapy, pushed me to do massage, pushed me to do different forms of psychology or counseling, because he saw I had a chush at that. And tachlis, from a very young age, I got married, and I had the monopoly in London of personal training. I did personal training, had the monopoly. No one else did it, and everyone was like, "That's such a brilliant idea." I said, it wasn't my idea; it was a Biala Rebbe's idea. But the fact is that everybody has their genius, and the point is, it's for us to, as the 𝗍𝗧'𝗦 writes, and so many others, to bring out the genius of the other. And that's, again, just in Avodas Hashem, that's what it means to be a friend. What it means to be a friend, what it means to be a Rebbe, what it means to be a parent. It's having the ability, the skills, the patience. By 𝗟𝗘𝗧'𝗦, the Arizal writes, by 𝗟𝗘𝗧'𝗦, it was a lack of patience. Reb Tzadok HaKohen, who it was just his yahrzeit, he writes that Adam and Chava should have eaten from the tree, but on Shabbos, after Shabbos, in two different midrashim. But the point is, they would have eaten from the tree. Patience, it takes savlanus, and everybody has their genius. And you're talking about Sir Ken, Zichron Livracha. So he tells over the story about how, there's a very famous race in a particular village, and you have a monkey and a goldfish in a tank and a sloth and a hare and a tortoise, and they have to climb a tree. So who do you think is going to win climbing the tree? But that's what our education system is like. So you find the kid who's really good at mathematics being good at mathematics, but then as we mature, we start with first of all we start outside playing, then we sit at a desk, and education is from your top part of the body up, and then as we go further in education, it's up to the head, and then up to the head and to the left hand side. And the nakuda is that everybody has their genius, and we have to take responsibility to be open to that reality, to be open to the fact that the person in front of you has their genius. And if you have that patience, it's a Jewish hashkafa in Shas and Peskim all around, to etch out, to excavate, to bring out the genius within.
Well, and I think specifically, Rav Gerzi, what you're sharing is really on some level what the world is awakening to, as they're starting to realize the fact that whether or not we like it or not, we look at the dropout rates, we look at the retention rate in school, we take a look and seeing that the system which may have worked for a certain amount of time is not creating the results. I believe that as Jews, who Baruch Hashem, we have a Masorah, we have a Torah that has spoken about this, that was given to us thousands of years ago, that we can and we should become the forerunners of this approach. And I think what you just shared right now, as on an individual level of a Rebbe sharing with you, which was so transformational in your life, and as each one as parents should have this approach when we look at our children. The challenge I'd like to throw out there, is for our schools, who are so dedicated, in each school. I can't even imagine, the amount of Mesiras Nefesh that goes into each school to be able to provide for kids, and it's so complicated, and I understand that there's so many different components and moving pieces and funding. They need to make it work. It's like a miracle that we should be able, and what we've built, that we have schools like we have schools today, which are amazing, to be able to provide an environment, to be able to learn an education, and to be able to be in a firm environment is amazing. But for us to open up to the tools that are out there, and these are tools I know as somebody who's working with people, what has been excavated in the realm of assessments, and I've had and shared these conversations with people that are involved locally here in our community, that there are assessments that can be used, that help us to understand people in front of us. Tools, very, very helpful tools that enable us to be able to have a student understand deeper, who is this child? What are their interests? What are their work styles? What are their learning styles? How does that manifest into different jobs? So that therefore, as we're building our curriculum, and once again, we have to work with our curriculum, first and foremost, we can communicate to our children that education is important. Your grades are important, but just know that what you're learning here is just a piece of the puzzle. It's just a piece of the puzzle. It shouldn't be that people go through years of schooling thinking that I'm not successful in my math and I'm not successful in my science and I don't have this grade. That means that I'm a no one. That means that I can't be successful in life.
When I came home with F's, what did Abba say?
Fantastic.
F is fantastic.
Right, but it's for so many people, the kids don't even understand this, and we can communicate. And once again, not at all, we don't have to be afraid that it's going to mean that kids won't take their school seriously, but to communicate and help them understand that there's a bigger picture. There's soft skills, there's different personalities, and if we can help, first of all, to communicate that to our students and with ourselves, within our dedicated staffs, within our teams and our teachers, that we can have a deeper understanding, so that therefore we can provide and supplement, right? And I could be working together with parents to supplement with them. It could be working outside of school programs. But let's build people. Let's understand their skills. And I'm sorry, I'm preaching a bit, but I work with the people after they went through the system, and I show them this map, and they're like, where were you 10 years ago?
Yes.
Where were you 15 years ago?
Time and time again.
You have just spelled out to me the last 15 years of frustration I've had at school in 3 minutes. Yeah. And I'm like, I understand your frustration.
Literally 3 minutes, not exaggeration.
Yeah, literally 3 minutes. Like, oh, now I get it. And now I understand why I've been miserable in my job for the last 10 years, because I did this degree. So let's heal it. I think that we can.
Very interesting. It's very interesting. I always found it fascinating. My wife is a musician. She's an artist. She's a musician. She's in the arts. I don't know where I fit today.
I think I've been in everything.
I think I've been in everything. They say jack of all trades, master at none. Anyway. So I remember it was very interesting because there was a conversation that she said to my grandfather. She said that when I had extra curriculum activities for school, like extra mathematics, not extra curriculum, but they had to take it out, extra tutoring. So when did they take her out? They took her out in art. And my grandfather said, what fools? Take her out in mathematics.
Right.
Take her out in mathematics.
It's coming from this lack of understanding.
It's like, art's not important.
Right.
And it's just, it's sad. It's very, very sad. I was very lucky. I was very 𝗟𝗪𝗦𝗦, because my grandfather, my grandparents, but my father's parents, my father's parents, my grandfather said something he was a tzaddik, unbelievable. And he was very, very makpid that, and my father found it difficult. My father's an academic. And I was like not getting the best grades in all the things that he excelled at.
Right.
And when I would sit with him to do mathematics, like, huh? Just like, and he's a good teacher. I wasn't getting it, and it becomes frustrating at times. It's like, no, come on, look, and other things I'd get like that. It's the nature of life. And my grandfather said to my father, you have to strengthen him in what you could strengthen him in. And it's difficult because, there's a world out there, and for some reason, I call it nowadays, I call it an illusion, but I would call it an illusion with very great sensitivity, because I understand from the parents of the children. I say this with great sensitivity. Once upon a time, a parent, myself, you can't read and write so well? Forget about it. You're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to get anywhere in learning. You're not going to get anywhere in work job. Today, absolute 𝗟𝗧'𝗦, nonsense. That you number one, I sat with somebody, very severe dyslexia. He outsources everything. He's an amazing businessman. He learned soft skills of negotiation and hard skills of negotiation. He started in sales. The guy's making a ton of money.
Right, 100%.
Ton of money. And he enjoys what he does. He loves it. He loves it, having the ability to play the game of closing a deal. And he outsources. Right. Anything that he needs to, he outsources.
Well,
and it took time for him to build the confidence, and it took time for him. And for example, when he has to record, when he first started, he would call me up and he would say to me, I can't write down. I'm writing down. I keep on getting told off because I'm not writing down. They can't read the writing because I have to write quickly after each phone call, and this and this. And I said, I tell you what to do, record it, and let's figure out. Just start recording it. And there was a person in his work who really liked him, and he would write out. It took him a few moments. He would write out after work. That's what he'll do, right? And that's how it really started. He ended up opening his own sales business and took this guy with him.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, he left.
It's such an amazing story.
We need to work together, collaboration.
Yeah, these stories are so inspirational, and there's so many of them. And this is what it's a fascinating thing, because when we speak about this gap sometimes that there can be between education and workplace, you just need to see what's out there and the material which is being spoken about from the workplace, not from an education place, from the workplace, of seeing what's needed in success today. And I think that as we look forward and as we look to be able to innovate, once again, not to fight against the system, to work with the system, to see how we're able to really optimize it, right? As Yidden, we can be, and we have a Torah that shares with us. It has been a great, once again, and we can't really get to the bottom of it, but really I think that's so important. And thank you once again for those of you that shared that feedback for us, because as we shared when we started this podcast, right, the goal of this podcast is to have a platform, to have the conversations about these topics related to work, related to parnasa, education, so that therefore we can achieve our goals, right, individually, as communities, and as a nation. So thank you once again for sharing that feedback. Thank you, Rabbi Gerzi, for sharing those personal stories with us, and each one of us in our own way to see whether we can impact within our own children relationship, within our schools, to see how we can do that, right, so that therefore we can be able to really uncover each one of our geniuses and to empower people so that therefore they can be successful.
Amen.